Do you want to be a consensus ranking slave like everybody else that plays fantasy football? Or do you want true, honest rankings that can separate you from your league mates? Because if you don't make the intentional decision to be different from your league mates, to zig when everyone else is zagging, then you're going to fall victim like everybody else when they draft duds every year based on consensus rankings. Oh, well, I drafted Travis Hunter because the rankings had him in the 3rd round. Well, Ashton Genty was supposed to be a top 5 running back. I don't know what happened to CeeDee Lamb. Our goal on this channel is to be the black sheep. We cut through the noise and through the bull crap so that you can win your league. Because I can tell you, I win an absurd amount of my leagues. And you know what happens at the end of every season? I get told how lucky I am. People always say, I have no clue how you won with that roster. How could you have known that player was going to be that good? I've got over 15 years of fantasy football experience, and I'm bringing all of my expertise to you. Today, we're going to be ranking the top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. I've broken these quarterbacks into 5 tiers. That is tier 1, elite. Tier 2, studs. Tier 3, roller coaster rides. Tier 4, situational goodness. And tier 5, absolute ass. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe. We are a new channel. We are dropping full videos every day as well as shorts that are different from our videos. We would appreciate your support. Now let's get to these rankings and have some fun while we do it. We are going to start with our elite tier. And to me, there's only room for one player in this category, and that is Josh Allen. League MVP from 2 years ago. The guy is an absolute monster. He is the best quarterback in the NFL. He's had 3 straight years with 12 plus rushing touchdowns. He's matchup proof. He's got a cannon arm. He can throw the ball like 70, 80 freaking yards. He's married to Haley Steinfeld, and he owns a pistachio farm. He was the overall quarterback 1 last year, and I project for him to be the quarterback 1 this year. I'm very annoyed seeing Lamar Jackson and Drake Maye both lumped into tier 1 in consensus rankings with Josh Allen. He is a head above those two despite what their numbers showed last season. Lamar, we'll get to Lamar. We don't know how Lamar is going to be this year. And Drake Maye had the most inflated, easiest schedule I've ever seen last season. So we'll get to him. Trust me on that. But there's one quarterback that is truly elite, that's worth grabbing in the first handful of rounds, and that is Josh Allen. If you want a absolute just beast every single week at quarterback, don't have to worry about the matchup. Set it and forget it. You're going to have an advantage over your opponent every single week. That is Josh Allen. If the guy doesn't win a Super Bowl, my heart will just absolutely bleed for him. As a Dolphins fan, I know how that is with Dan Marino as part of our franchise, but we'll get into that another day. Moving to tier 2, these are going to be our studs. All these guys are going to be set it and forget it guys. They're going to be top 12 quarterbacks at the end of the season, but I think you're going to be interested to see how I have these players ranked. The number 2 quarterback I have ranked in fantasy going into the season is Jalen Hurts. Kevin Patullo is gone for the Philadelphia Eagles. AJ Brown's toxicity is gone. He far and away has the easiest strength of schedule in the entire league for a quarterback this season. And I think this is a year where Jalen Hurts lost a lot of respect from last season, and he is going to be locked in trying to get back to that MVP candidate status. The tush push is still undefeated. He's going to get you 8+ rushing touchdowns every single season. For leagues that account for points for first downs, that's just easy free points, like 4 or 5 every single week. My only red flag on Jalen Hurts is he has a difficult playoff schedule, but still, I think the Eagles are going to be a really competitive team. I personally think Jalen Hurts is essentially matchup proof, and I think this is going to be a breakout season. Consensus has him at 6. I have him at 2. Next, we're going to talk about a guy who never gets talked about, and that is Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence. If I told you that Trevor Lawrence had 38 total touchdowns last season, would you believe me? What if I told you that 9 of them were rushing touchdowns? He's clearly synced up with Liam Cohen. We're finally seeing the elite prospect side of him that we were promised so many years ago. He also has one of the easiest strength of schedules when it comes to the regular season and one of the easiest postseason strength of schedules. People do not take that sort of stuff into account enough. And the Jags, with their frustrating overtime loss last year to Buffalo, they are going to be on one to try and show everyone that last year was not a fluke. Consensus has Trevor Lawrence at 9. I have him at 3 overall. On to number 4 overall, and that is this generation's GOAT, Patrick Mahomes, and who I consider to be the third best quarterback in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes was second only to Josh Allen in points per game last season until he got injured. This dude is the modern GOAT, and he is competitive as hell. Last season, you could tell that he wanted to get his numbers back up. He had turned almost into a situational clutch game manager for the Chiefs, and nothing against him about that, right? That was Tom Brady in his first 3 Super Bowls, was game managing. But you can tell the Chiefs want to get back to that run and gun style of offense that features just how legendary Patrick Mahomes is as a talent and thrower. Seems like he's finally going to have a complete offense this season without all the injuries and the offseason mishaps. And I think he's going to come back stronger than ever. Consensus has Patrick Mahomes all the way down at quarterback 13. I've got him at QB 4. Next, my QB 5 is a guy I'm really back and forth on this year. And in my mind, he's one of the toughest players to rank, and that is Lamar Jackson. Most people have him as 2 or 3. I've got him at 5, so a little lower, and not in tier 1, but in tier 2. I still think he's a stud, but really more than any other year, he carries the if he's healthy tag on him. When he came back from injury, and I understand he was playing through some injury, but he also said he felt good when he was playing, and he just looks like he has lost a step. Now, I personally think with all the rest in the offseason, he's going to get back to where he was. But, you know, the pessimistic side of me thinks 2 years ago, losing that MVP race to Josh Allen sort of broke his brain. He looks less confident as a thrower, less explosive as a runner. And for me, it's going to be more mental. If he comes out and looks like a killer this year, out the gate, then yes, he could move up into that top 3. But there's some uncertainty in what I saw with his body language, what I saw in his post-game interviews last season, and his psychology in general. And we got to see if his body is going to hold up as he gets older. And what happens if that running game and his legs start to diminish. On to quarterback 6, and that is NFL MVP Matthew Stafford. Yes, he's super old. He looks like Father Time, but he had 46 passing touchdowns last season. Heck, he might go for 50 this year. He might hit Tom Brady, Peyton Manning status. He's got Devontae Adams. He's got Puka Nacua. He's got Kyron Williams, Blake Corum. He's got like 3 legit tight ends. He's got an excellent defense. He's primed to potentially go win MVP again if he balls out. His full season strength of schedule and postseason schedule is not that difficult. You would have thought it would have been a lot more difficult considering just how good the Rams were last season, but it's not. Consensus has Matthew Stafford at quarterback 15. I have him at 6. That is a 10-spot difference. Too many weapons, and with one of the best head coaches in the league, he is going to have another stud season. On to number 7, we're going to be talking about my boy Sinbad, and that is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are the Dallas Cowboys, and the more things change, the more they stay the same, and that's the Dallas Cowboys. Bad defense, down in games, talented offense, talented quarterback who likes to air it out, who puts up monster points. He doesn't run like he used to, but the dude consistently throws for 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. I've always been a Dak Prescott believer. When he got hurt and he had his first major injury, that was a bummer. I think it took a big toll on his season. I think it took a big toll on his career, but the fact that he's been able to adjust and change his style into really like a pure pocket passer and to be as effective as he is, I think he doesn't get enough credit. Now, the knock on Dak Prescott, they have an average strength of schedule, but you know, he's going to be throwing in every single game. They're not a team that's going to overwhelmingly be relying on Javonte Williams, but his playoff strength of schedule is very difficult. So that is my red flag on Dak Prescott. If you grab him, be aware, because against those elite defenses and a lot of times in pressure moments, those are the times Dak Prescott struggles to step up. Consensus is Dak at 10. I've got him at 7. Number 8, and this is probably the player I am maybe furthest from consensus on, and that is Drake Maye. He finished as the quarterback 2 last year in fantasy. Good for him. They had the easiest schedule in the history of the NFL. And you know what? I'm not knocking him for that, but I'm going to need to see it against a schedule that's actually a little more difficult this season. I understand he gets A.J. Brown. He's getting some more weapons. Stephon Diggs is gone. He gets an upgrade there. He's got great legs, good vision, but He excels against bad teams. He crushes bad teams. And against good teams and against good defenses, he struggles mightily. I am so glad he did not win MVP because we saw the true difference between him and Matthew Stafford when it came to actually playing good teams in the playoffs and seeing how they perform. Drake Maye had one of the worst QBRs ever for a quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl. And even his Super Bowl numbers were inflated by garbage time yards and touchdowns at the end. Yes, the kid has a lot of promise, and I think he will still be a stud. I can't understand why people are placing him in the top tier right alongside Josh Allen. I think it's disrespectful to Josh Allen, and I think Drake Maye is going to take a step back this year as far as fantasy production goes, especially with all the chaos and toxicity that is going on in New England. Consensus has Drake Maye at 3. I've got him at 8. Still stud, but about 5 spots lower and not a player I think you should be paying an overly high premium for. The last quarterback in my stud category, and this might be a surprise to some of you, is at number 9 is going to be Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers. I think Brock Purdy's underrated. I think when you watch him play, he has a swagger. He sees the field. I think he's an excellent quarterback. I think him and Drake Maye are actually very similar quarterbacks. They can both use their legs. They're both sneakily athletic. They've got good arms, good accuracy. Now, of course, Brock Purdy has to deal with the curse of the San Francisco 49ers, and that is that every player is injured around him all the time. He's even gotten injured last season, right? So there's a scare there. But his points per game last season when he did play was fantastic, and he turned into a little highlight factory machine. Now, here's my red flag on Brock Purdy. He has a tough regular season schedule and one of the overall hardest, most difficult playoff schedules. But that is not completely scaring me away from Brock Purdy. We have seen him produce in shootouts against high quality teams. It doesn't matter who they are playing. The 49ers will put up numbers. In fact, sometimes with them, the harder schedule, the better. Get into a shootout. Get away from the boring CMC run game at 3 yards per carry and let Brock Purdy cook in a shootout, which could very easily happen in the fantasy football playoffs. On to tier 3. We are labeling this tier the roller coaster rides tier. That is not to say that I think any of these quarterbacks are bad. I think all these quarterbacks are good. And I think these are actually quarterbacks you can get really good value on later in the draft if you decide to wait on a quarterback. At the top of this tier, we're going to be talking about number 10, Joe Burrow. I don't know what the deal is with Joe Burrow. I think he is one of the best passers in the NFL as far as arm strength, ball location, vision, swag, cigar smoking skills. He's got Jamar Chase, arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's got T. Higgins, Chase Brown out of the backfield, so many weapons. I'm not sure about his motivation to want to win Super Bowls, despite what he says. He seems, and he's expressed frustration, but I just don't buy it all the time. A part of me thinks Joe Burrow, who is also super injury prone, by the way, loves the idea of having a bad defense and just getting into shootouts every week and getting to put up monster numbers. And you know what? I don't have a problem with that because it's great for fantasy football. But this dude is made of glass. He gets hurt all the time. So that's your big red flag on Joe Burrow. Other than that, you know this team is going to live and die through him. Their defense was god-awful. They're going to be god-awful again. And I think he's going to ball out. But the roller coaster ride in him is he going to get hurt? That's the biggest question about Joe Burrow. Fingers crossed, hopefully not. Consensus has Joe Burrow at 4. I've got him at 10. It's really that red flag of being able to stay healthy. So a big difference there with health being the main difference and concern from my end. Number 11 for me is going to be Justin Herbert. I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about Herbert. It's like every season you look at him and he has a few games where you're like, man, this guy is a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. And then you watch the next 3 games and you'll go, well, this isn't the same player, is it? And every year there's these Herbert truthers, and then they're proven right for a bit, and then they're proven wrong, and it's always, this is finally gonna be Herbert's year. I'm not fully convinced on Herbert. The talent's there, but his consistency is such a problem for me. And I also think the Chargers lack a lot of wide receiver weapons. I'm a Lad McConkey fan as much as the next guy, but he's no wide receiver 1. Herbert doesn't have anyone he can throw the ball for a 15-yard slant that can take it to the house. It just doesn't happen with him. He has to have this pinpoint accuracy or these broken plays or these bombs on contested catches to get the big plays. And I just don't love relying on that. The pro for Justin Herbert, he has one of the easiest schedules this season as well as playoff schedules. However, we know that Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football. So if they have an easy strength of schedule, we can see them running the ball with Omarion Hampton and Keaton Mitchell likely, as opposed to taking a lot of shots through the air when they're in tight or up in games. Consensus has Herbert as 7. I have him at 11. Moving on to number 12, and that is Jaxson Dart. So this is right at the end of the quarterback 1 tier, if you want to look at that. And this dude is a roller coaster ride. I think his brain might be a freaking roller coaster carousel on crack all mixed up into one. Like him and Cam Scatterbull, I don't know what they're putting in the water over there. He is an interesting guy. He's funny. Like, I like Jaxson Dart, the dude. I worry about some of the hits he takes, the situations he puts himself in, but his supporting cast is still a work in progress. He gets John Harbaugh, first-time head coach, pairing up with him. I like the fact that Jaxson Dart can run like Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh is familiar with a quarterback like that, and he knows how to make quarterbacks like that successful. However, John Harbaugh also has to take care of Jaxson Dart's health, so I don't think he's going to be putting him in as much harm's way as he did with Lamar Jackson, with Lamar being faster and more athletic and better at taking care of his body, so far proven, than Jaxson Dart. I'm actually in full agreement with consensus here. Consensus has Dart at 12. I have him at 12 as well. Number 13 on my list, and that is going to be Caleb Williams. Boy wonder who paints his fingernails in Chicago. He is probably the weirdest quarterback in the NFL. He's an odd guy. He's very flamboyant, very feminine, in my opinion. I've got some really good friends that are diehard Chicago fans that will defend him to the death, but I can promise you the day he's no longer their quarterback, or if he has a steep fall off, they will have enough ammunition for a lifetime to say why he did not work out. That being said, that flamboyancy, that flair, it's fun to watch. And Ben Johnson is one of the best offensive minds in the game. He turned that Chicago Bears team around. He made Caleb Williams a better quarterback. He put him in better situations. But it's so weird with Caleb Williams. I mean, he was a fourth quarter monster. That's where it felt like he got all of his fantasy points last season. But his inconsistency and sort of his apathy leading up until the fourth quarter, it's like someone needs to slap this dude and wake him up to start a game. The amount of luck they had last season, and I don't want to be disrespectful just calling it luck, but like the late turnovers they would get, the miraculous plays, to his credit, that Caleb Williams would make, I don't think we can count on that to happen in back-to-back seasons. And at some point, he's going to have to become more consistent. I haven't seen it yet, but if he can become consistent, I see a top 5 upside with Caleb Williams, but I'm just not a full believer yet. Consensus has him at 8. I've got him down at 13. 14 is a quarterback I consider virtually identical to Caleb Williams. I find this quarterback has slightly less big play ability, but more accuracy than Caleb Williams. And I think at the end of the day, it causes them to be very similar statistic-wise. He can run like Caleb Williams. He's got a good head coach and around the same level of talent surrounding him, and that is Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos. Poor Bo Nix fractured his ankle right at the end of the divisional round last season when they won that miraculous game in overtime against the Bills. And with him getting hurt, you saw just how valuable he was to the Broncos, as their backup did virtually nothing in the AFC Championship, and they lost to Drake Maye and the Patriots. Not that Drake Maye did anything. Bo Nix is really interesting. He was a quarterback 1 last season, and yet everyone the entire season was not talking about him, or when they did, they were always like, I don't know if he's good. I don't know if he's good. Listen, I don't know if he's good either, but I think he's Caleb Williams level good. I think he's a bit of a roller coaster ride. He's a bit of a project, and I think he's trending in the right direction, and I think he has great promise, and I think he should be mentioned in the same breath as Caleb Williams. And don't be surprised if he has a better season than Caleb Williams. I'm with consensus on this one. Consensus has him at 14, so do I. Moving to number 15, we're going to be talking about Steady Eddie, and that is Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions. Does he have great rushing upside? Not so much. He looks like a noodle. And so he is going to get you, one rushing yard per game. However, he's got Jameson Williams. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's got Jahmyr Gibbs. He has weapons galore. Sam Laporta. And he's very accurate. He's very consistent. 3 years ago, listen, he hasn't changed at all. If anything, he's gotten slightly better, more consistent year over year. 3 years ago, I had Jared Goff as my starting quarterback in my most competitive league, and I won that year with Jared Goff and his consistency. It was getting 20 points a week, 20 points a week. And I think the Lions were a bit of a mess last season. I think they're going to get it together this year. And I think he's going to have a little bit better season than last year. If you want to wait on a guy that's going to be consistent and give you points and you don't have to pay a high price tag for him, draft Jared Goff. Consensus has him at 16. I've got him at 15. So I'm kind of more in line with consensus in their third tier. I just like to point out the differences in them. Next, I've got Baker Mayfield at 16. The dude is a fighter. He's fun to watch. He throws the ball like a rocket. It's not always accurate. He has a lot of passion. He also is having some contract issues in Tampa Bay right now, and he's not happy that he did not get that extension, but he said he's going to play through it, and he's going to prove everybody wrong this season. Well, isn't that Baker Mayfield? Always proving somebody wrong. Good for you, buddy. You know what? I'm not going to knock Baker Mayfield because I relied on a lot of his garbage time production last season. Again, in my most competitive league, I won that league, and he was my starting quarterback, Baker Mayfield. Again, which proves you don't need a stud to win. I am more down on Baker Mayfield this year than I was last year, not only just with the attitude stuff and what he's dealing with. He loses Mike Evans. He also has a really tough regular season schedule and a really tough playoff schedule. Love the dude, but I'm fading Baker Mayfield this year. Although I will say, he's the ultimate roller coaster. He will take you from 2 points to 20 points in about 2 minutes at the end of a game. So there's our roller coaster mark on Baker Mayfield. Consensus has him at 18. I'm slightly higher at 16, but definitely passing a good backup maybe. My next quarterback is Tyler Shough, and I've got him at 17 overall. Tyler Shough was awesome last year. When he took over, he was one of the best fantasy football quarterbacks. He was a QB1 through the time that he was a starter for the New Orleans Saints. I don't see any reason why that should change this season. His strength of schedule is right in the middle, which I think is great because he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. They'll probably be down to teams just like last year with their bad defense. And he has an excellent playoff schedule. I wish I would have played him in the playoffs last year. I won anyways, but I went with Baker Mayfield just to for consistency. I just wasn't sure yet about Tyler Shough, but I really believe in this guy. He's a great sleeper. I've got him at 17 while consensus has him at 20. And my last quarterback in this roller coaster ride tier 3, is Jordan Love. Jordan Love is very strange. He, in my opinion, is a very talented, excellent pocket passer. He has a ton of weapons. The Green Bay Packers are addicted to having the largest wide receiver room in the NFL. I don't know what is wrong with them, but they just can't help themselves. They'll deploy 5-6 wide receivers every game. He has Tucker Kraft, who by my money is a top 3 tight end in the NFL when he's healthy. The other thing with Jordan Love, he got banged up last year. He missed 3 or more games last season. And the weird thing with Jordan Love, he can look like freaking prime Aaron Rodgers sometimes, but a lot of the times he is not getting the touchdown efficiency when it comes to the red zone. When the Packers have been getting close, it's been getting fed to Josh Jacobs. Unless that changes, we can't really put Jordan Love higher than where he is right here. And I like Jordan Love. I'd love to see him have a breakout season. Consensus has him at 19. I've got him at 18. All right, tier 4, and this is going to be our situational goodness tier. These are players that if their situation works out, they could likely be in that tier above, in that tier 3, that roller coaster ride. But right now, we're not even willing to call them a roller coaster ride. Their situation has to turn good for them to get to that roller coaster ride status. At number 19, I've got the little rat himself, the Xbox addict, Kyler Murray. I have never been a Kyler Murray believer. Never, ever, ever. I love that everyone, all the times from 5-6 years ago, is like, do you remember how elite Kyler Murray was. For 10 games, he was leading in the MVP race. Back in my day, Kyler Murray. You know what? It just took 10 games for teams to figure out that this dude can't throw on schedule, he can't throw on time, he can't learn a playbook. His entire game is backyard football. It's him running around like his chicken with his head come off, hoping to find an open player on a broken play. He's too short to look over the line. He's not good enough mentally to change the scheme, so he has an advantage. I am not a believer in Kyler Murray. However, Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings made Sam Darnold a stud. Now, it did not work out last year with J.J. McCarthy. This is all very situational for Kyler Murray. We don't even know 100% if he's going to win the starting job over J.J. McCarthy. He's still in competition with J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy thinks he's a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. I don't know what that tells you because that dude is delusional. Now, here's the thing about Kyler Murray. All that hate on Kyler Murray. He has the easiest regular season and postseason strength of schedule. He could turn into Sam Darnold from 2 years ago, but with more rushing upside. There you go. Should the situation work out? Should he win the starting job? Should the Vikings be competitive? Should he not lose the starting job? Should he win it midseason? He has an opportunity to become a roller coaster road type of candidate that could be, dare I say it, potentially a league winner. Consensus has him at 17. I've got him at 19, so very close. All right, here you go. This one actually might be a bit shocking for y'all. I have Jayden Daniels. If you've been wondering, where's Jayden Daniels of the Washington Commanders? I have him at 20th, okay? Spoiler alert, consensus has him at 5 overall. Jayden Daniels was spectacular 2 years ago, and last year he battled injuries and looked dreadful. He became a check down merchant. His accuracy wasn't good. He couldn't run with his legs. They have like 0 weapons in Washington. Don't love the culture there. Just don't know if his situation breeds positivity and excellence for him. He also has an extremely difficult regular season record and one of the most difficult playoff schedules. This is what I would call a trap player this year. This is a guy that most of your league mates are going to draft high and they are going to regret it. And they are going to be saying, what happened to Jayden Daniels? What happened to I'm telling you that I'm a believer in Jayden Daniels, but he is not in the situation right now. This entire situation relies on him being absolutely elite and perfect to raise his entire offense and his offensive weapons around him to get the absolute most out of them to get that overall 5 price tag. I think that is insanity. We saw what that looked like last year and it was not good. He's had time to rest. I hope he's better. I hope he can have a long career and that he can become a more consistent fantasy starter, but I am out on Jayden Daniels this season. Number 21 is Sam Darnold. What is there to say about Sam Darnold? He revitalized his career with Minnesota 2 seasons ago. He wins a Super Bowl last season with his first season with the Seahawks. He has turned into a good game-managing quarterback that can hit consistently his open players throughout every single game. He's got one of the best wide receivers in the league in JSN and some other good weapons as well. If you want just a steady Eddie guy that's probably going to get you about 15 points a week, good week in, week out filler, that's Sam Darnold. Decent backup. Next, I've got Daniel Jones at 22. Daniel Jones is what I would call the village idiot. If you look at this dude, he is like the freaking Forrest Gump out there. He can break a 50-yard runoff, but he's going to trip over his own shoelace in the process. He can hit a 40-yard bomb, but then he's going to throw the ball off his center's helmet on the next play. I don't know what to do with this guy. He's like a laughing, walking meme that is somehow, in my opinion, athletic and underrated at the same time, but every time you believe in him, something happens to him, whether it's an injury or a dodo brain play. They are a run-heavy team in Indianapolis. Their schedule is average. He has a good playoff schedule, but do you want to be putting your season on the line with Daniel frickin' Jones? Probably not. Moving on to number 23, and that is CJ Stroud of the Houston Texans. He only averaged 15 points per game last season. This is the guy who had an amazing rookie year and has struggled ever since, and he always has a plethora of weapons, and he's looked bad. He's gotten like worse and worse season over season. However, he gets his best buddy Tank Dell back this year. They get a better running game, more consistent this year. If Nico Collins can stay healthy, he's a top 5 wide receiver. He has so many weapons. The question is, can he lock in? He's too calm for me. He's too okay with being below average and relying on his defense and his big playmakers to do everything for him. His situation is really on him. Can he mentally lock in and become a demon out on the field like he was? He's too chill. He's too lax. I don't want to rely on him on a week-to-week basis, especially not in the fantasy football playoffs. Next is my boy Malik Willis of the Miami Dolphins. I've got him ranked 24th currently, but let me tell you what, if his situation works out, he will easily get into that next tier. He has the most upside of everyone I've mentioned here. He has the most upside besides maybe Kyler Murray, and I think Malik Willis is a better quarterback already than Kyler Murray. The Dolphins have a decent schedule. They're going to have a negative record, so they're going to be in a positive throwing game script often. Malik Willis, as I've mentioned ad nauseum in some of my other videos, is over-under touchdowns 14.5 on the season. That's one of the lowest of any quarterback. I think that's super disrespectful. I think he gets around 18, 19, 20. He is going to have a great floor because he has awesome legs, and I just think he's super underrated. If I don't have a quarterback, I'm taking him in like the 14th, 15th round, and you know what? I'm willing to roll the dice on him and prove everybody wrong. And the last quarterback I have in this tier, this situational tier, is Jacoby Brissett of the Cardinals. He got paid. Good for him. He was a fantasy darling last season. I used him for a lot of plug and plays. I felt like I was just, breaking up with him and bringing him back onto my roster every other week, depending on his matchup and just sort of vibes in Arizona, who was healthy, who wasn't in his receiving core at the time. He has an average schedule this season. I think they're going to be in more competitive games. I don't see him just turning into a gunslinger when they're down 14 points to start every single game. Still has potential to be that upside streamer, but let one of your league mates draft him thinking his numbers from last season are going to reproduce. I don't think they are. He's going to take a step back this season. The last tier is tier 5, and we are going to roll through this tier pretty quick. This is our absolute ass tier. Players I don't want to talk about, I don't want to think about. They should never be in your starting lineup. And I'm going to rattle these off fast for you. If you have contention with any of these, leave a comment. I'm happy to respond. But that is 26, Cam Ward, 27, Bryce Young, 28, ancient ass Aaron Rodgers, 29, Geno Smith, 30th and 32nd, I put Tua Tagovailoa and Michael Penix Jr., 2 left-handed quarterbacks in Atlanta. Who knows what the hell that organization is doing. And at 31, we've got Shedeur Sanders, who it looks like he's not even going to win that job. But Deshaun Watson, the creep, will probably start, and he'll probably lose the job because he sucks. And I'd much rather see Shedeur play. I think everyone would. So that is all I've got. Those are my complete quarterback rankings, 1 through 32. Let me know what I got right, what I got wrong. I know I have some big differences from consensus, but that is how you win leagues, is you avoid some of these bombs, you avoid consensus actually, and you zig when everyone zags. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you all in the next video.